Good evening, peoples. Back at you with BITO and YBIT, the Yieldmax funds around BTC. Okay, as you all probably know, Coney, Misty, YBIT have all been pulling back based on BTC. And happy payday today on 7/8. Okay, so it's not that good for Bitcoin and BTC oriented, but we're close to a bottom. It sure seems like. I'll show you some more on the chart. But anybody that bought this at 20 isn't happy at a NAV price of 1526. But remember, it's a little bit like Tesla. That was ugly for a while. This is a new fund. You can't. People say to me, "Well, it seemed to drop more than Coney and Misty." Not really. It's just they came in at much lower BTC prices, so they've moved up considerably. But if you just look at the last month or so, they've all come down. But people that are bullish, again, don't chase yield. Buy something that you're bullish on so that you're not scared out of your position. Because again, a lot of times people chase at the top and sell near the bottom of pullbacks. It's just psychological, right? People can't take the torment, right, of a low NAV price, and they're like, oh, I got to have a stop loss, and these market makers love to run stop losses, right, and pull things down just to take your asset away and let smart people buy it when it's on sale. So again, I'm not saying ride something to zero. I'm just saying be aware of what you own. And, first off, BTC has been the best performing asset over the last couple of years, bar none. Is it volatile? Amen. It's super volatile, right? We know that. That's why Misty carries some of the highest IV out there, and they can generate so much money, and their payouts are great. But nobody wants to say, "Hey, I own Misty at 38 and it's 24." That doesn't feel good, right? So I'm not one that says, look at just ROI, how much they paid me. I say, look at ROI, total return. You want to get paid a lot. And if I can get paid in 7 or 8 months in Misty, I'm not worried about where it's priced right now. When it goes on sale, I want to add more. But again, no asset's going to keep paying you super high yields if all it does is go down. So enough of that. Let's jump in here. So 1977 for BITO, down 0.05. Well, we went down a little more, 0.26. Well, we got people to buy in the fund, right? We went from 26 to 285. Look at this continual move up from around. I mean, it's really, there was a sell off here back on 628, first time, and then it turned around and went back to the prior number. And then sometimes I repeat the same day when they sell a couple of different naked calls. So don't see it as the same day, but it's just how we have to create another line to show a different price or a different strike price. Okay, so we're at 2850. So more, so they had money. I could pull over the BITO sheet and show you, but it's got other data on it. So I'm just going to tell you. Okay. So we have two, let me get my number together. 2,300 contracts were put on in the naked call, and obviously on the synthetic we did 2,300. So let me show you the naked call first. We had 20.5. We continued the same strike price that we had this big amount from last Friday, right? When we rolled out successfully and bought everything back for a penny, put a 20.5, which looks to be a decent strike price range, albeit it was 21's. Well, you can't compare prices, right, when they did that. So anyway, we collected lower amount because we're higher up. So we collected 19 cents on about 10% of what we sold previously, but that's okay. It put 43,700 at this point in the piggy bank, right? added money. Let's go look at the synthetic, which is out at the 35, and we're out till August 2nd. So here's what we did. We put the 2300 again because we're underneath this strike price, considerably underneath this strike price, right? We're at $20, give or take, and it's $35. So we can buy calls for a penny or two, right? And sell them. You know, this thing has to run 15 points to get to break even by 8.2. It easily could do it, but Bitcoin needs to reverse and start to take off. So we shall see. So 1582. So they collected, 3,600,000, 3,700,000, and they added that to what we had already collected, 600. So we're up to 4.2. Again, the only thing I don't like about it, it's giving us money, but we still have a liability. But hey, I'll take the money if you believe Bitcoin's going to move up, which most of us that own these funds do. Otherwise, why on earth would you own something that you're bearish on? Don't do that, please. Then you'll be kicking yourself. Yeah, I was chasing you, Bruce. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. Well, try to see it ahead of time. If you're bullish, by all means, these assets are fine. And I always preach, if you're bullish, this is just part of the play. Guys that do nothing but yield max with their money on an income strategy that they're super bullish on the underlying, you're missing out on some growth, some capital gain money. I mean, heck, you can sell some and generate money. I love these income funds too. I'm retired. I have a big nest egg and I want to generate cash, and they work perfectly for that. Um, but also understand, there is something to growth, and there is something sometimes, and I know some people hate the leverage ones, right? Don't go out on margin on leverage ones. If you want to margin at all, that's your business. I don't tell people not to margin. I just say understand your risk. But on the double X leverage ones, it gets even harder in my mind, to leverage because they can go against you. But what they do, when people complain about Yieldmax getting capped, which can happen in a super bull run, go out and buy a little bit of the 2x. If you really think it's going to run and you see it capping and you think it's going to keep running, keep your income for your income, right? But buy a 2x to help you, and don't hold the 2x's for months and months and months like you would, because they decay. It's hard for them to keep up the 2x each day. Ideally it's 2x, but they don't always maintain that. It might be 1.9, 1.8 over time, and you're losing something in the leverage that they put on to keep the 2x. Okay, so let's wrap this up. I'm not going to keep you long, but I always try and tell you tips and things that I've learned over 40 years investing, and sometimes, most of the time, the hard way. Um, okay, so let's look at weekly real fast. So all of again, they didn't ladder, right? They put on another 2050. I get it in the second batch because they only got 17 cents. If they would have gone higher, and maybe they didn't want to do a 20, because look, that has a good chance of getting run by if we get a bounce here. So anyway, these are the current prices. I did update the chart. Now, when I drew this line, I did it manually, right? Whereas, like, if you own TradingView, you can just say run parallel line, and the line should be a little up here and so forth, but generally it's a parallel line, and you can see we're very close to resistance. Look at this. It's traded up here, came back. There's a lot of support right in this range, in the lower 19s. So very likely we're going to bounce off here. Probabilities say we're going to bounce, right? Now, that may be a bounce to the midline here, halfway up, and then we go back down and break it. And then that's a false breakdown and go up again. This is, anybody that tells you they know exactly what it's going to do, all I'm saying is probabilities are we bounce off. So if you're strong in your belief, people can gobble up $15, but it takes intestinal fortitude to say, I own a little bit at 19 or 18 or at 20, and I'm going in at 15. Is this thing going to 10 and reverse split? Well, if Bitcoin crashes and continues to go down to 40 and 30, yeah, it very well could. But if it turns around at 50 or even 46 or something and runs on to 100, 125, which a lot of us think it will in time, then all you've done is secure cheap shares. So ultimately, you're the driver of your own money, right? No, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. I can just tell you my thinking. Okay. So let's jump over to holding. So the only thing I'll say here is a couple of key things. So 33, we didn't really change much from 30. It was a slight change. But again, that's a big liability. Why? Because we're writing those 35s when it's at 20. Okay. Here, we're actually making some money. We sold some at what, 25 and then 17? Yeah, 27 and then 19. So we actually look pretty good. We've now captured 6%. And again, where are we? We're at 1977. So as long as we stay below 20.5, we're going to collect all of our money. It's just the way it works. So the actual close is 1526. They're saying fair value is 1501. I think I see the volume coming in here. So I know there's some Bitcoin diehards that believe in this. And frankly, there's some point if we go to 30 or 20 or 10, I'm just making up, and Bitcoin never goes back, then you can say, hey, I was wrong. And you can also put a stop loss at some point. But remember, the market makers love to play your stop losses. They're smart. They can read that. I don't tend to use them, but I actively manage so that I watch and say enough's enough sometime. But I also use other strategies to try and buy even cheaper. I may go out and, sell a YBIT, put. I haven't even checked if there's options on YBIT. I know there are on Coney and Misty and VITI and Tesla, and I use those. And watch one of my videos on how to buy cheap, because you can get a real bargain, or you just keep the money if it doesn't get put to you at those cheap prices. Okay, let's go in and wrap this up on payouts. So I had actually had a wrong number in here. So when I added the new money and I fixed the wrong number, we look pretty good. $1.47 in total income, and we only have a 2-cent loss here. Now that assumes we collect all this money this week. But guys, the other issue, we need to get this up to $4 or $5, and knowing that we have that big liability to get our dollar something payment, right? They're going to still pay us if we have a lot of money over here. And in this case, 8.2, we will have to roll. But again, they can do the same thing they did last month, simply roll out of the 35 and roll into a 33. I'm assuming we're at maybe 25 or some number, who knows. And so they just keep kicking the can down the road until Bitcoin takes off. And we'll keep our dollar coming. So I'm not saying it's horrible that we have the paper loss. It's just not going to allow us to get a $3 or $4 payout. They simply see that liability and go, nah, I'm not going to pay you half that, like they did in Misty, because Misty was really moving on its synthetic. The synthetic was also generating a lot of that without the loss, right? And in this case, we've had money in every single category because they're winning their weeklies in a slow decline. They're winning their synthetic by the sense that they're using a really, high price. So it puts a paper loss and then they roll out. So it's an interesting scheme. And if you're bullish on BTC like I am, I see why they're doing it. I'm not really faulting them. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you go. I got more videos to do. So again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Have a great week. Bye for now.